In this video, I'll be cooking arguably one of the most delicious bites in barbecue, the beef dino rib.
Well, hello there, barbecue friends. We got a cool fall day today. Just feels like the perfect day to fire up the Pit Boss Heritage Wood Pellet Grill. Today I got a nice rack of beef ribs from J&E Meats. It's a 4-bone rack of dino ribs. Really looking forward to putting this on the grill. So I'll take you through this cook step by step. Let's start up just firing up the grill here. We're going to set it to a temperature of 250 degrees. Now, beef ribs like this could take anywhere between 6 and 8 hours. So we got an earlier start today. Let's get going. There's that great startup screen. Love it. All right, let's get our meat out. Get it seasoned while this is warming up. All right, everything we're going to need to cook up these beef ribs here on the Pit Boss Heritage Wood Pellet Grill. So a couple things. When you're cooking your beef ribs, the low and slow is the best way to get perfect tenderness. So throughout this cook, we don't want the outer layer to dry up too much. So I got a nice pan of water that we're going to add to the grill here. Secondly, as we get closer to doneness and I want to check temperature, I don't want to keep probing it because every time I do, I see liquid coming out and I don't want to lose any of those juices throughout the cook. So I'm going to use the probe that came with the Pit Boss here. And I labeled the end with some white electrical tape because I get mixed up what probe goes with what barbecue, and not every probe works with every barbecue. But that's just my problem. And this beautiful cut of meat from J&E Meats, all I'm going to do is season it with salt and pepper. And I'm going to give it a layer of some olive oil just to make the outside nice and tacky so that salt and pepper forms that nice crust on the outside. So let's do that now. Our grill's almost up to temperature here. We'll get things going. You can see just how cold it is this morning by the steam coming off my coffee. But it's one of those cool, crisp, fresh airs going on. Just love it. All right, this is my oil sprayer here. I could spray it with oil or drizzle it with oil. Just love these things. Got them off of Amazon. I could leave a link if you're interested. So again, I'm just going to cover this with a little bit of oil. I'm not going to do too much on the underneath here because it's just got that membrane holding all the bones together. And as we cook this, like I mentioned, the low and slow, there's like a layer around that bone of cartilage. So throughout this cook, we're not going to get it perfect, but we just want to loosen that up a little bit as well. Again, that's only achieved by a low and slow temp. All right, now that we got that olive oil spread on there, add a layer of salt. And a layer of pepper. The pepper is what's going to give you a nice crust on this when it starts to cook down there. So don't be afraid to put too much. And this meat itself is extremely rich, so it can take the extra spice. All right, here we have it. This is now ready for the grill. So I want to cook these ribs on the upper rack. I'm just going to lower this upper rack to the lower position. Just like that. As mentioned, I want to put this water tray in here. So throughout this cook, you want to keep the outer layer of that meat to dry out. So I find a nice water tray like this with generous amount of water. Does the trick. All right, now I'm gonna enter the probe. I don't want the probe to be hitting the bone, but I don't want it to be close to the outer layer either. So what I'm gonna do is go right through, try to get into the center of that meat only. I'll plug my probe in. Okay, now we'll get our ribs on. All right, here's another look at the setup here before I close the door. Well, again, I anticipate this cook to last about 6 to 8 hours, but we'll see as the day goes on. I'll periodically come check it. If I do, I'll let you know what I'm doing and why. Try to keep this cook as simple as I can. I know beef ribs can be tricky. So as this cooks down, that meat's going to shrink up on the bones, going to tighten up. And like I say, I just don't want the outside to get too dry. So we may reach a point where I'm going to wrap it. But if I do, I'll bring you back. I'll show you what's going on and why I'm doing it. And if I don't, I'm going to cook this fully no wrapped the entire cook. And a brisket I like to do on my Kamado because there's virtually no airflow. And it's a nice environment. You can make a nice moist environment with that water tray. The pellet grill, on the other hand, it's got a little more airflow through it to keep that fire going. The same concept. I put that water tray in there, put the meat on top. So ideally, this whole cook goes just without wrapping. But if I do wrap, I'll bring you back, show you what the ribs look like and why I'm wrapping. But I'll bring you back periodically throughout the cook as I check things, if I'm doing anything, and let you know how this whole cook goes. So I'll see you then. All right, here we have it. We're 2 hours into this cook. We're going steady at 250 degrees on the grill. The interior temperature of our meat is now 105 degrees. We'll just open it up, take a quick peek here. I don't anticipate on doing anything at this point. Just show you what it looks like. There we are. See, it's just working away there, low and slow. Our water there, water tray's nice and hot, keeping the environment nice and steamy. I'll bring you back at the next step. All right, we are now at the 5-hour mark here on our beef ribs. The convenient thing of having the probe hooked to the pellet grill itself, I can both monitor the grill temperature along with the meat temperature. Currently, the interior of our meat is 164 degrees. So let's go in for a closer look. We'll decide what to do. All right. So we're getting a lot of bone pull here. That meat's starting to shrink up. I'm getting some nice bark forming there. It's not looking too dry. It's really got some nice color on there. But to be on the safe side, I think I'm going to wrap these. Piece of foil there. See if I can lift them with my bare hands here. Yeah, we're at that temperature where all the juices are starting to flow out. So it's probably a good time to put this in some foil to catch all that. Now I have some beef tallow that I rendered down from our previous brisket cook. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put some of that on top. Fat is flavor. This is just starting to smell amazing, by the way. Yeah, I'm just going to keep that temperature probe in there. Nice kind of double layer there for some protection. All right, put that back up there. Close our lid. All right, now that we're at that 5-hour mark, I added a little more beef tallow just to give it some more juices. I wrapped it up to give it some more protection so it doesn't dry on the outside. We're at the 5-hour mark, so I'm going to bump this cook up a little bit because we're only at 164 degrees interior. So I'm going to bump it up to 300 degrees. Just like that. We're looking for an interior temperature of over 200 degrees on here. So when we reach that, I'll bring you back and I'll show you what we got. All right, we are now at the 9-hour mark. These are taking a little bit longer than what I thought it was going to be. Now we have an interior temperature of 195 degrees. At the 7.5-hour mark, I ended up bumping up that temperature to 350 degrees just to get it to go a little quicker. But again, we're at the 9-hour mark. What I'm going to do is open it up. I'm just going to probe it for tenderness and see where we're at. If they probe nice and the meat's nice and tender, I'm going to take these off. All right, let's open it up, see what we got. Uncover this a little bit. Oh my God. The smell on here is just amazing. Now, like I say, I'm just going to probe it for tenderness here. Ooh, that goes in nice. Doing real well there. Wow, like I say, we're 195 degrees. It's probing really nice. As anticipated, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull these off at this point. All right, I'm going to bring this in the house. Just going to let it rest for a bit. Then I'll bring it back for the taste test. All right, here we have it. Just look at that beauty. So you can see just how much that meat shrunk on all 4 of those bones. The smell on here is just amazing. I'm really anxious to get into this. Thank you, J&E Meats, for this delicious rack of dino ribs. It was just a pleasure to cook this. Let's cut into this and see what we got. I'll try to cut it right down the middle here. Oh boy. Oh, I can just feel how soft that is. I'm kind of hitting that bone. Oh, look at that. I'll bring in for a closer look. Oh, wow. Look at the smoke ring on it. This thing's just looking perfect. You can see all that rendered fat inside. Just look at that. Look how juicy. Now that's a beautiful cook. The smell on this is just amazing. There we have it. Look at the meat on that bone. Kind of hard to keep it on the bone here, so I'll just cut a end off here. I'll cut a couple pieces. All right, let's go in for the taste test. Just look at the bark on that. Beautiful. I'm telling you, that is so good. The beef short rib or the dino rib is probably the best bite in barbecue. These beef ribs are so flavorful. Well, thanks again to our friends over at J&E Meats for this beautiful cut of beef dino ribs. Very thankful to get this. Looking forward to trying more from the store. So I'm anxious to get this back inside. Go have dinner. If you can, check out J&E Meats. But if you're not in their area, look for a place in your area that raises cattle and processes it on site and sells it. I'm sure you'll be able to get some beautiful cuts of meat like this. Bring it home in your backyard, find your place, and we'll see you on the next video.